After that tragedy, a unique act of solidarity from Israel towards its neighbor Lebanon, which, keep in mind, is formally still an enemy state and with whom Israel has fought a number of wars. Well, last night, the Tel Aviv City Hall lit up with the Lebanese flag. You could see it there with the cedar tree in the middle. Now, the Tel Aviv municipality called it an act of humanity, identifying with the victims of the blast and not the Lebanese government, of course. Now, the gesture won applause among many Israelis, but it was not appreciated by all, and it even generated some criticism among the Lebanese. Well, joining us in studio is Yoseph Haddad. He is an Arab activist and CEO of the organization Together Vouch for Each Other, and he was seriously injured fighting in the Second Lebanon War. And Yoseph, you're here because you put an interesting post on Facebook saying you were really of two minds about that flag there on the Tel Aviv City Hall, both for and against, and that's tied in really with your quite unique biography. Maybe explain that.
So, I was injured very badly in the Second Lebanon War, and my blood is over there. I fought in Lebanon.
On Lebanese soil.
On Lebanese soil. I fought Hezbollah. But this is exactly the key word. I fought and we fought Hezbollah. The problem is that Hezbollah is a terrorist organization that is captivating the Lebanese people as well. And this is the most amazing problem. I'm going to give you like an amazing story. When I entered with my unit, Golani unit, to Benjbel, we went in a house that was still a family, a Lebanese family over there. When we entered the house, you would actually expect them to hate you because you're coming and you're taking control of their house. The first thing the owner of the house told me, once he realized that I speak Arabic, he said, "Please, I beg you, do something about it because Hezbollah is terrorizing us more than you." That was their message. That's why, for me, when I come and say, I'm a bit torn because, yeah, I fought there, and obviously Lebanon is considered as an enemy country. But looking at the wider picture, because I have friends, and because since yesterday, I've been getting hundreds of messages from Lebanese, by the way, that they are really appreciative for this act of solidarity. And obviously from the fact that Israel is giving or wanting to help the Lebanese people. And that's for me, it's amazing. Because eventually, what I see is that I don't really have a problem with the Lebanese people. I have a problem with Hezbollah. Hezbollah is terrorizing us. Hezbollah is terrorizing the Lebanese people, and this is basically the story. In general, you can see on the social media that most of the Arab world or the Lebanese are talking about, we don't want your help.
The assistance that Israel has offered to Lebanon.
Yeah. Well, obviously, from my side or from my point of view, it just shows that Israel is, one of the most humanitarian countries with the highest value there is. And people are actually in the Arab world appreciating that, but not out loud. I've been getting, as I said, hundreds of messages saying, this is amazing. And it's actually revealed the truth about Israel. And you know what? I'm very proud of our country. I'm very proud of our nation, our society, that we are here and actually doing this act of solidarity.
Right. Now, I want to explain to some of you, as you are a Christian Arab who serves in the IDF, you are not the first. I mean, there are other Christian Arabs who have. It's still quite unique within those that are native to Israel. Back then, it
was a bit unique.
Right, it was unique. We should note that Christian, of course, the Christian Arab community in Lebanon is quite big, and they served, many of them, as allies with Israel. How much identification is there with the Christian Arab community in Israel, which also has ties to the Palestinian community, and that Christian Arab community in Lebanon? Many of them fought alongside Israel during these conflicts there.
I'm going to surprise you. And I'm going to surprise you because we're not going to talk about Christians or Muslims. We're going to talk about the Arab world. And especially also to talk about the Israeli Arabs here. Because the majority of the Israeli Arabs are not extreme. We have extreme voices in our society, obviously, as well as extreme voices in Lebanon. The problem is it exactly the problem what we're seeing in terms of not getting the messages, the support messages from outside and out loud. So the thing is that the Israeli Arabs and the majority of the Lebanese, they don't want to fight, and they actually agree that we need to be in peace. But one more thing about us, about the Israeli Arabs, and it's very important to understand that in the last 10 years, the percentage of the people from the Israeli Arab society that are volunteering either in the IDF or in the national service has increased by hundreds of percent. Hundreds. I'll give you a simple statistics. In 2004, there was only 200 people serving in the national service yearly. Today, there is more than 5,500 people, Arab Israelis, serving in the national service. So like it's huge to see that, and it's actually related to also what's going on in Lebanon.
I just want to, Yosef, ask you, you said you have mixed feelings, understandable, seeing that Lebanese flag on the City Hall. There have been voices on the Israeli right who have just said it just should not be there, it's moral confusion. How do you react to them that say definitely it shouldn't be there?
First, I can understand why they're saying that eventually that Hezbollah is over there. But let's stay and think about that. Hezbollah has their own flags as well, you know, the green and yellow flag. So eventually, that's the actual flag that represents terrorism, and not the Lebanese flag. And it's very important to say that. So I understand that eventually Lebanon, we do have a lot of problems with it, but because I know a little bit more about the Lebanese people and I know the truth about them, as I also reveal the truth about us, I know that they shouldn't have a problem with them. Our problems is with Hezbollah. Hopefully we will beat them as soon as possible.
All right. Well, as I said before, yours a unique story, and that Lebanese flag flying there in Tel Aviv City Hall is certainly a unique occurrence. I can't remember that ever happening before. Yoseph Haddad, thank you for joining us on The Rundown.